Good day, everyone. We will discuss today continuous and transitory or continuing crimes. This is the last installment of our discussion on plurality of crimes. What is a continuous or continued crime or delito continuado? It is one where the offender, impelled by a single criminal impulse, commits a series of overt acts at about the same time in about the same place, and all the overt acts violate one and the same provision of law. These are the elements of continuous crime or continued crime or delito continuado. First element, the offender is impelled by a single criminal impulse. Example, X, in his mind, has decided to steal 5 roosters placed in the same pen or cage. Element number 2. Pursuant to that criminal impulse or his decision to steal the 5 roosters placed in the same pen or cage, he commits a series of overt acts. And what are these overt acts in relation to that example? He then subsequently takes the roosters placed in that pen or cage. Now, take note that the taking of each of the roosters constitutes one overt act. So, in the example shown, there are 5 overt acts that X committed because the taking of one rooster constitutes one overt act. Third element, the series of overt acts is committed at about the same time and in about the same place. So using the same example, X steals the said roosters that were placed in the same pen or cage at midnight while the caretaker was sleeping. So you can see in the underscored portions of the example that yes, the taking of the roosters was committed in the same place, and it was also committed at about the same time because all of them were taken at midnight while the caretaker was sleeping. Fourth element, all the overt acts violate one and the same provision of law. Can you guess what provision of law was violated here? You guessed it right. The taking of the roosters with intent of gain and without the consent of the owner constitutes the crime of theft, defined and penalized under Article 308 in relation to Article 309 of the Revised Penal Code. Now, take note that the taking of several things, whether belonging to the same or different owners, at about the same time and place, constitutes only one crime of theft. Now, there being unity of purpose, the offender here commits diverse acts, each of which, although already a crime in themselves, merely constitutes a partial execution of a single crime. And what is that single crime? Pursuant to a single criminal resolution of the offender, that of stealing all the 5 roosters. For delito continuado to exist, there should be plurality of acts performed separately during a period of time, unity of penal provision infringed upon or violated, and unity of criminal intent and purpose, which means that 2 or more violations of the same penal provision are united in one and the same intent, leading to the perpetration of the same criminal purpose or aim. This was taken from the case of Gamboa versus the Court of Appeals. Now, one important note, the series of overt acts need not be committed at the same time or at exactly the same time. It only needs to be perpetrated at about the same time. So be careful in construing the definition of what delito continuado is. It only requires that the overt acts be committed at about the same time. For example, X was only able to steal 2 roosters because the caretaker suddenly woke up at midnight. A few hours thereafter, or just before daybreak, X succeeded in taking the rest of the roosters. Because if this series of overt acts, though arising from one criminal resolution, are perpetrated over a long period of time or continuing in time, then it becomes a continuing crime, not or no longer a continuous or continued crime. But whether it is a continuous or a continuing crime, there is only one crime committed, which follows that there should only be one penalty imposed. What is a transitory or continuing crime? A transitory crime is one where some acts material and essential to the crime occur in one place and some in another, in which case the court where any of the essential ingredients of the crime took place has jurisdiction to try the case. For example, violation of BP 22 or the bouncing checks law. The court of the place where the worthless check was issued and delivered, or the court of the place where the check was dishonored by the drawee back, can have jurisdiction, either of these two courts. They can have jurisdiction to try the case. Why? Because some acts material and essential to the crime occurred in one place and some occurred in another. There are other examples of transitory crimes. We also have estafa, where the place where the deceit was employed may be different from the place where the damage occurred, in which case the court of the place where the deceit was employed or the court of the place where the damage occurred can have jurisdiction to try the case. Forcible abduction with rape is also another transitory crime because the place where the victim was abducted may be different from the place where she was raped, or it could be the same place. I'm only using this example to show to you that these crimes or some of the essential ingredients of these crimes may occur from one place to another. What about a continuing crime? A continuing crime is one where some or all of the elements or ingredients of the crime may occur in one place or in different places. Yet by reason of the very nature of the offense committed, the violation of the law is deemed to be continuing. Here are some examples. In the crime of kidnapping and serious illegal detention, for as long as the kidnapper continues to detain his victim, or in the crime of evasion of service of sentence, for as long as the convict continues to evade the service of his sentence, or in the crime of rebellion, for as long as the NPA rebel continues to take up arms against the government, they are deemed to continue committing the crime, and they may be arrested without warrant at any place where they may be found. They are also in the nature of transitory crimes because the place where the victim was kidnapped, for example, may not be the same place where she is detained. With that, I end my discussion on plurality of crimes. Just remember that when talking about plurality of crimes, the law imposes only a single penalty for the offense committed. Or even if there are two or more offenses committed, only one penalty is imposed. Okay?